Well, good evening, everyone, and it's wonderful to be here with such an informed audience. In fact, I understand from your chairperson that actually this event was highly oversubscribed, which was a problem that was only resolved when it was announced that I was going to be the guest speaker. And I'm here to talk to you about a subject which I'm close to myself, and I'm sure is close to all of your hearts, because can I have a show of hands from anyone who is not a customer of Dubai Airports in one shape or form? Anyone not been through DXB or DWC? Right, okay, that's good. No one needs to see me afterwards to point out the error of their ways, so that's very good. But what I'm going to talk to you about tonight is where we're all going wrong in this industry and how you guys can help us fix it. And it's a serious subject because I think there's a history of doing things really badly in airports, and I'll tell you a bit about that as I carry on. But look, let's start with triggering a few things. I'm going to ask you what this conjures up when I say these phrases. Just do it. I'm loving it. Every little helps. It's the real thing. And my favourite, because I'm worth it. Now look, people spend around the world billions of dollars every year coming up with those sonic brands to trigger those emotional responses when they see the product, the soft drink, the incredibly expensive cosmetics, all of those things. What do we do in the airport industry? What are our gems of sonic branding? No liquids, no gels, jackets off, laptops out, shoes off, anything sharp in here. And here's my personal favourite from a recent airport experience, which I'm not going to name. I told you to take the belt off. They're not really great, are they? Are they really selling the public? I mean, would Julia Roberts be happy to front that particular gem of sonic branding? Probably not. These sound bites are more like the unwelcome reminders that your travel experience is about to become a bureaucratic obstacle course. And I'd like to take you on a journey to explore why airports often feel like a chore rather than the adventure they really should be, and see what can be done to turn this experience around. We'll examine the misconceptions in airport management, the flaws in airport design, and rethink the role of airports in the future of travel. Now let me start with a story. I once had the chance to chat with the head of a very major airport group in the UK. I can't name them for legal reasons, but is his office very near Heathrow? I asked him what he thought his job was, and his response was startling. The airlines supply our customers, and my job is to sell them something and then get them on a plane. Now hold on a minute. Does that sound right? Travellers are parting with their hard-earned cash, often embarking on trips of a lifetime. And many are already anxious, which is made worse by the cold, uninviting environment that airports often are. Imagine if that attitude greeted us at this very hotel. I mean, if we weren't allowed any liquids, at least half of you wouldn't have bothered to stay to listen to me. And sure, look, airport security has a vital job to do in keeping us all safe, but wouldn't it be great if they could take a leaf out of the hospitality industry's book? I think a lot of airport management are confused about what they are doing, why they are there, and what business they're genuinely in. Often caught neatly in the middle of securing a return to their shareholders and trying to do the best by their customers, and sometimes misunderstanding who their customers really are. Unfortunately, and this line I've particularly crafted for my audience this evening, the devil is in the design. We all know airports are getting bigger and bigger, but they are conceived with the best interests of who at their heart exactly. It's a bit like designing a house where the kitchen is at the other end of the garden. And also, our legs have stayed roughly the same length for millions of years, but airport designers seem to think that walking a mile to reach a gate, together with the stress and anxiety that induces, is a fun new feature. I remember the first time I walked through one of these sprawling airports, I felt I needed a map and a compass just to find the nearest bathroom. It's like a mini adventure every time you travel. But let's be honest, if you're running late for a flight, the last thing you want is an unplanned marathon. So I think it's time to question the status quo. Let's ask 3 simple questions about airport processes. 1, do we really need to do this? 2, if we do need to do this, do we actually need to do this right here? And lastly, do we need to do this on its own, by itself, without other things at the same time? By challenging these outdated legacy activities, we can streamline operations and make airports more efficient. Now, your chairperson earlier on was talking about, is the solution always grey? Do we always have to build stuff? And I think the answer is a definitive no. Imagine if we could reduce walking distances and processing times, thereby increasing capacity without building new terminals or infrastructure, then we'd get smaller, more efficient, higher capacity airports. They could become a reality and they wouldn't require more concrete and steel. But let's delve into the core role of an airport. At its essence, an airport should facilitate the transition from ground to air and back again. But how many airports manage to achieve this in an effective and customer-friendly way? Consider how airports are designed. They often resemble sprawling malls more than efficient transit hubs. They're often long queues, confusing layouts, and everyone appears to be corralled into crowded spaces, thereby reinforcing the sense of foreboding whilst creating an overall sense of chaos. They certainly feel as though the layout and processes are designed for the convenience of the operator, not the customer. And then there's always the changing role of technology. Within the past 2 decades, the concept of adding systems to a physical structure has been turned completely on its head. Now we have to design structures to accommodate technology that is yet to be conceived, as it is the process and technology that is now the driving force and should be the driving force between modern airport design. And streamlining airport design into 2 fundamental categories, flow and dwell, should dictate what's important at each step of the journey. Flow means compact, fast-moving spaces with a minimum of process, all designed to get people moving through the facility as quickly as possible, like a fast, efficient metro system. And dwell should be all about comfort, choice and convenience, where customers can spend time and money enjoying facilities in a stress-free, calm environment before boarding their plane, which is always very close by. If you judge many significant airport designs using these 2 fundamental parameters, you will find many of them lacking. Some airports have a lot in common with prisons. The least amount of time they're able to detain their customers, the happier those customers seem to be. The other pressing issue is not only airport design, but across the entire industry, which has massive implications for the entire aviation supply chain. And that is the complex and challenging issue of sustainability. It's interesting how differently each country is approaching this urgent and important topic. In Singapore, a levy on long-haul ticket prices is being used to directly invest in the production of sustainable aviation fuel. In Amsterdam, Munich and Dublin, and at many other airports, there's an imposition of a restriction on the number of flights. The former strategy, as in the Singapore model, allows aviation to continue to grow, to contribute significantly to GDP, which is the proactive approach, whilst the latter seeks to strangle it. Surely there's a more intelligent answer by allowing additional flights, but only by the latest, quietest, most fuel-efficient and least polluting aircraft, which encourages the right behaviour. And of course, the aviation industry has a massive disadvantage when it comes to using alternative fuels. And these alternative, more sustainable sources of propulsion are a long way off. Aircraft must carry their fuel with them, and nothing to date has been invented that is more energy dense than a litre of jet A1 fuel per kilogram. So while it's necessary to figure out the long-term solution to aircraft propulsion, be it hydrogen, electric, or dare I say even nuclear, what we can do today is make the associated activities as carbon neutral as possible. Solar energy, electric and hydrogen vehicles can all be implemented on the ground, and it is our aim at Dubai to boost our solar energy production tenfold over the next few years and to ban all hydrocarbon-bound vehicles at our airports. These are amongst the many other measures we are taking to ensure we reduce our carbon footprint to the minimum. But it needs the industry, government and public to work together to make it happen. Governments must figure out proactive policies to allow the growth of human mobility continue in a more sustainable way. Industry must be both challenged and incentivized to invest in the technology to achieve it, and consumers must also contribute to the costs of making our personal mobility more sustainable. Although the efficiency of new technologies will hopefully eliminate the increased costs required to deliver them, if the consumer does end up paying more, surely this would be a small price to pay when the alternative of continuing to poison our planet is so unthinkable. Also, do we continually need to expand airport capacity in countries where there are so many underutilised airfields? In the UK, there are 11 airports within a 60-mile radius of central London, but the issue is on the ground, not in the air. A couple of years ago, I was on holiday in Penzance, in the very southwest of England, and I had to travel to the Midlands to deliver a speech to students on the last day of their term in the city of Coventry. I booked my ticket, I drove to Newquay Airport to board my flight to Birmingham, only to find that it was delayed by 4 hours, which meant that I'd miss giving my speech. I felt vindicated for the lack of sympathy that I showed and the surliness of the service I received from the staff when a few months later the airline went into liquidation. I had no choice but to jump back into my car and drive for 250 miles to my destination. Fortunately, I made it in the nick of time. However, that was the start of my problem, not the end of it. I had a return flight booked, but I had my car with me, which sadly was outside the dimensions of even the most generous hand baggage allowance. I was now in the centre of the UK on the final Friday afternoon of the summer term, needing to drive back to the southwest of England. The big problem was also many thousands of people also wanted to make the same trip at the same time. So the solution, I decided to have a very early night. I went to bed at 6 p.m, set my alarm for 2 a.m. I then drove all the way back to the very southwest of England with only the BBC World Service for company and hardly saw another vehicle for the entire journey. I also had time to think, and just as the sun was rising as I headed west along the A30, which those of you that know that part of the world is when you can start to see both the north and southwest and south coasts of Cornwall in the view on either side. And I suddenly had, as the sun was coming up and I was heading west, a eureka moment. What if there was a confluence of innovative technology and the latency of road capacity during the night? If these could be brought together and autonomous vehicles could be redesigned as hotel rooms on wheels that speed silently and sustainably through the night, we could suddenly undertake long journeys while we sleep and cover significant distances. This might be the solution that we're all looking for to the problem of how poorly many airports are at performing the most basic function for which they exist, and that is providing a quick and efficient transfer method of going from surface-based transport to one that is airborne. Unfortunately, for far too many airports, this basic function, which should be in the core DNA of airport design, is often poorly conceived at different stages of development, using a hodgepodge of ill-fitting solutions, which are lately now being charged for when we deign to go on airport forecourts. Yet, we sit on the cusp of a surface transport revolution. So radical approaches to personal mobility, such as driverless vehicles, the modal shift to high-speed rail, and urban air mobility are almost here. Imagine booking a sleeping pod to travel overnight to an uncongested airport. You avoid that dreaded 4 a.m. wake-up call and all the associated hassle. Instead of building larger airports, we could use our entire transport ecosystem more effectively, economically, and sustainably. In this way, we could transform the accessibility of regional airports to solve our capacity issues without pouring a single cubic metre of concrete. And if the challenge of sustainability for aerial transport is such a key issue, and fast, time-respecting alternative surface transport modes could become more ubiquitous, maybe a modal shift from air to innovative new surface transport would help solve the problem. 48% of global air journeys are undertaken over distances of 500 miles or less. If the evolution of sustainable carbon-neutral surface transport could replace even a relatively small percentage of these journeys, air travel could then be reserved more exclusively for longer sectors where alternative transportation methods are less time competitive and more impractical. And the whole carbon footprint of transportation could be significantly reduced. Aircraft technology is also moving in favour of regional airports. More than 85% of new jets on order are smaller, single-aisle aircraft that have excellent operating costs and need a significantly lower number of passengers on board to make air services from smaller airports to a wide range of domestic and international destinations, both far and wide. The historic linearity between aircraft size, range and operating economics has now been irretrievably broken. So instead of always craving more infrastructure which is expensive, disruptive and politically toxic, can we not find a way of using what we have more effectively? Can we move to a more enlightened air transport environment where new capacity is reserved for more sustainable solutions that would regenerate local economies and their communities and hasten the geographic spread of prosperity without the escalation of the carbon footprint of air travel, something which should be firmly on the agenda of every government. Another challenge to be overcome is our romantic involvement with the automobile. which I believe will end abruptly within a couple of generations for solid environmental and economic reasons. The attitude towards car ownership amongst those below the age of 30 is dramatically different from when I was desperate to gain my own independence and get behind the wheel. Globally, we spend about $2.8 trillion annually of our own capital on personal transport, which we then go on to use for about 10% of the time. With shared and driverless cars becoming more common, we could dramatically increase efficiency and sustainability, and of course our personal finances to boot, by a pay-per-use mobility model. Picture a future where interconnected vehicles on roads, rail and in the air communicate with each other as part of a coordinated network to eliminate traffic jams and delays. No more red lights, no more car parks and congested roads, no more wasted time. But we do face hurdles. Technology must be safe and socially acceptable. The real issue isn't the vehicles, it's the humans behind the wheel. In the US, Tesla's autopilot has one accident per 3.34 million road miles, whilst the average accident rate with a human behind the wheel is 1 per 492,000 miles. You are nearly 7 times more likely to suffer a mishap with a human behind the wheel than if technology is taking the strain. And the future of aviation, if not our whole transport ecostructure, lies in individualizing technology and moving away from mass aggregation to a more tailored end-to-end solution. And let's rethink how we view airports. They shouldn't just be transit hubs. They should be integral parts of the overall journey. By rethinking design, embracing new technologies, and putting the customer at the heart of everything, we can transform the airport experience into something enjoyable. However, I've left the most important component until last. I've talked about the focus on humanity in identifying the needs of our customers and the role that new innovative technologies play in eliminating the legacy processes that stand in our way. The most important impact that this will have is to clear the way to create a more human, more individual and personal touch in the way we interact with our customers. It's the most powerful way to achieve the objectives of transforming airports into prosper hospitality enterprises. At Dubai International, when I arrived in 2007, we had 32 million customers and over 5,000 staff. This year, we expect to host nearly 93 million customers, and we now have 1,700 staff. That's a productivity improvement of 8.5 times, and our customer service scores have never been higher. By recruiting new trainees every year and pursuing a policy of development and promotion from within, we've been able to create a unique, unified service culture which is more intimate and connected. We turn jobs into careers, and we've even been able to roll out this approach to include our stakeholders and service partners. Now our police, immigration, customs and other major contributors to airport operations are part of our One DXB program and participate in our service awards, where we feed back our customer service results and create healthy internal competition. It's taken a long time to mature to this point, but it's been the most powerful way of galvanizing a common, consistent and high-achieving approach to unified customer service. And despite this maturity of our operating model, we are relishing the unique opportunity that we have to start all over again. Sheikh Rashid, who was the first ruler of Dubai for 32 years until 1990, had the foresight to identify that even when DXB was a new enterprise, that the city would then need a new airport to fuel his vision of growth for Dubai. Hence the identification of the 140 square kilometre site for the new Dubai World Central Al Maktoum International Airport, more than the size of 19,000 football pitches. This is an opportunity that only comes perhaps once in a lifetime, and it's certainly an opportunity to create something unique, something that promotes the sustainable growth of human mobility that brings joy and harmony to billions of people each year. We also need to create an experience which feels personal. We're talking about a future where airport experiences are no longer stressful, but rather streamlined and pleasant. Imagine a future where every airport is a joy to navigate, where technology works seamlessly to make the journey smoother, and where the people we meet along the way are warm, engaging, and helpful, and where personal mobility options ensure that getting to and from the plane is as easy as pie. So here's a call to action. Let's reinvent a service culture that means our customers can stop enduring airports and start enjoying them. Let's create spaces that are not overwhelming and intimidating, that are intimate and welcoming. Let's make sure that the future of air travel is not a series of disconnected, anxious moments, but a seamless journey that's a pleasure from start to finish. And let's create a new human-to-human relationship between our people and our customers at every level that reinforces the joy and romance of travel, just the way it really should be. And let's create a new meaning for the words civil engineer. Thanks so much for listening, and enjoy the rest of the evening, and let's have some tough questions. I'm not going to shy away from them, I promise you. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen.